All right. First off, I'd like to introduce our moderator. Seán Dwyer teaches Spanish at Western Washington University. As a former student of his, I can say he's an outstanding teacher. And he's the author of the memoir A Quest for Tears: Surviving Traumatic Brain Injury. This book here. He also has a number of other published short stories. And as an advocate for other writers, he hosts the open mic at Village Books. Peggy Sullivan, a licensed mental health therapist, recently retired from her private practice in Bellingham, Washington, where she continues to live with her two cats. She's the author of 3 other books, including 2 children's books, and she's here to talk about this book today. This book's Blissfully Single, A Single's Guide to Finding Happiness. And it actually, last night, at the Chanticleer International Book Awards, won first prize for nonfiction, the nonfiction division. So congratulations to Peggy.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
All right, thank you, Charlie. Well, Peggy, this is a big milestone. Number 1, you got the book out. You also have another cat book coming. So
Yep.
you're just a dynamo of literary activity at the moment. So great, and congratulations again on winning your ribbon last night. That was exciting to see.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, well, let's talk about this new endeavor that you've got out after many, many hours of work on this one. So, first of all, let's talk about credentials, because you have some letters after your name. So tell us what gives you the right to do this.
LMHC is licensed mental health counselor, and the license comes from the state of Washington, or mine does, from the state of Washington Department of Health. In order to be licensed, they require you to have a master's degree in a field that is related to counseling. So mine is a master's in education with a specialization in counseling and guidance. And then you have to work 4,000 hours under supervision. And then you have to pass the National Counselor's Exam. And then to continue to keep your license, every year you complete 18 hours of continuing education credits. The 4,000 hours is a big deal to do. And I was fortunate that I had a job where I could complete my hours. So I was working at Okanagan County Juvenile Department under a director who had an LMHC also. And what I did there was non-offender services to start with. I represented the best interests of children who were found dependent in court. So I visited them in their placements, whether it was foster care or a relative or even in their own homes. And I also was the guardian ad litem in Superior Court. So we're talking about custody cases here. So I did home studies for those cases and wrote reports and recommendations and testified in court. I spent a lot of time in divorce court. and that was my motivation. It's hard. And it was my motivation to focus on helping people to have healthy relationships. So when I started my private practice, that was my primary focus to begin with. And in fact, I wrote a book for couples. My first book, it is 12 Secrets of Happily Ever After Couples, a love prescription. When I was out marketing that book, I was approached by single people who said, "What about us? Could you write something for us?" So that's where it came from, Blissfully Single. It's done, finally.
Yeah, well, you interviewed 100 people, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you chose to call it Blissfully Single instead of Not Desperately Single or something like that. So why blissful?
Well, it's a little over the top. happy is the opposite of sad. And I think it's important that we always try to reach our highest potential, push our limits, open more doors for more opportunities. And so blissfully fit that, I thought.
Yeah.
Go for it. Be blissful.
That's perfect. And you of course got a lot of insight into how that works. But now, when you talk about happiness, it's a pretty subjective word, because one person's happy is another person's totally terrible day. So,
What makes me
so
happy doesn't make you happy.
how do you, yeah, how do you define happiness, really? How do you define happiness?
It takes a whole book to do that, really. It's such a huge subject. It's the focus of study for many psychologists, and particularly the field of positive psychology. It's positive psychologists are holistic, uh, take a holistic look at health and wellness and the human experience, what makes people find pleasure, and what just generally what gives people a good life and what makes people happy. So there's a lot of studies that have been done with through positive psychologists and other fields of study in psychology as well.
And what essentially, can you boil down what they have said about all
There
this?
are some specific categories that we can look at, and one would be that you like yourself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that, and you talk about how to like yourself here.
I do, and
Okay.
part of that is being content with being on your own, which single people pretty much are. Not everybody is completely alone, but being content on your own is good for individuals who are in committed relationships as well. To be a whole person is part of what I'm recommending for couples as well. So just liking yourself and being a whole person and being content with your experience is important. And having good self-esteem is part of that. Having meaningful work is very important.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a place in the community, a way that you are valued in the community. And that can be work that you get paid for, or volunteer work, or raising children. That's all important work. Being cared for by others as well is important. And so you want social interactions that are positive.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing to be a hedonistic person, enjoying your senses. So enjoying good food and beautiful art and music and nature and literature and all those good things, that actually helps with happiness. And then you have to stay healthy. Healthy body, healthy mind, healthy emotions, all important.
So there are many facets to happiness, and your interviewees draw them out. Now, how many? How did you find the people that you interviewed?
Well, yes, because happiness is such a subjective thing, I thought that I should interview a wide array of people to get many viewpoints, different perspectives on it, not just my own, and not just a few, but quite a few. So I picked 100. Sounded like a big number that I could do. And I interviewed men and women ages 20 to 90, and they lived everywhere from Hawaii to London, with stops in between, and Washington, not just Bellingham, but Seattle, Spokane, many places in Washington, and Oregon and California, British Columbia, Montana, Vermont, Pennsylvania. And how I found them was just really organic, Seán. I didn't set up a formal study. I asked people wherever I was talking about my books. And it was particularly fun when I was marketing my children's books to talk about the new project, this book for singles. And often people would volunteer themselves or tell me about someone that would be a good subject to interview. So they'd volunteer their brother or their sister or their children.
Or their ex-spouse.
Maybe. I have to say, this interview process involved a promise of confidentiality. So I can't give away anybody's identity, and all the names were changed. So none of the names in the book are real names.
Okay. Yeah. So if you think you see somebody and they have a certain name and you say, it's my friend by that name, that's not your friend by that name.
No.
So, that's good. Now tell me about the children's books, because I love them, and I'd like you to show them off a little bit if you got them. How you doing?
I have them here, of course. So the first children's book I wrote for my children is called Midnight and Moonlight. And you can see it's about two cats who look very different. They were opposites in many ways, but they were best friends. And when you're with your best friend, differences don't matter. All my books are from a series of life lessons that take the cat's point of view. So they are all a life lesson involved. And this one, Yes. Midnight and Moonlight was translated into Spanish, Dos Amigos, una historia de la amistad. And the final editing was done by Seán Dwyer. Thank you, Seán.
Yeah, my pleasure. You wrote a good book in Spanish. And you also were the first reader at the Spanish open mic that we initiated shortly before COVID here.
Yep, that's still going on.
Yes, It is. And everybody should come and read something in Spanish.
Right, yeah. You can find that on Village Books event page, the Spanish open mic. It's last Monday
of the month. 6 p.m. Radio. And you got the new one.
Next, this isn't the new one. This is the second one.
Oh, right.
I actually have 4. So the second one is The Moon and Star, which is a story about a little white cat who moved a lot. And she was left sometimes while her tall girl went traveling all over the world, and she lost a friend. She had a lot of challenges, but she was a real trooper. And what got her through is she loved to go out and look at the moon. That was one constant in her life. And that's such a lesson for us to remember, that if you can find something beautiful to focus on, that every day is a little bit better. So we're talking about mindfulness in that one. And then my daughter-in-law's cat gave me a story, because Tabby the Magical Theater Cat happens to be a real story, sort of. I took some artistic license on it. Tabby showed up at Bellingham Theater Guild performance of Fiddler on the Roof. And she made herself known to everyone there. So I wrote a book that is an introduction to community theater. And every time I sell one of these books, I make a donation to a community theater from that sale. And I've been able to help the Bellingham Theater Guild, Linden Performing Arts, the one in Ocean Shores, Big Fork Community Playhouse in Montana. Let's see. There's a Tada Acting Studio in California.
Wow.
And then Broadway Cares, New York City. So it's been fun to have that connection, have the book actually be used that way. And we learned from Tevye that theater creates magic when you're involved in it. Even as a participant, even as a spectator, you feel the magic. But as a participant, you gain a family, and your life is changed in many ways. And actually, everyone has magic in them if you look. So then I have a new book. This is the latest, and this one is on the shelves at Village Books right now. So this is Shadow Walkers, The Secret Lives of the Shy Sisters. And these cats live with me in this house. They are so shy, it's ridiculous. So you might see them walk across the screen here while I'm talking today, but if you come to my house, nope, they'll hide. From the shadow walkers, we learned that if you take your time with the quiet ones, you might find that there is more to be known. So that was a lot of fun, but it was also really nice to get back and be writing for adults again.
Yeah, well, and so you did these interviews. How did that proceed? What did you have to do to get that going?
Well, I had a questionnaire that I used for everyone. It had the same 13 questions, which helped later to put everything together and organize it into chapters. And I talked to people if I could in person, but many of them were done over the phone or using our technical, using the computer through the internet, chatting.
And how did you get things started with them? Because you got to have a way to break the ice here, yeah.
Well, so the first question I asked was, what do you like best about being single? And guess what? Everyone said the same thing.
Chocolate.
So everyone talked about freedom and independence.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And but happiness is subjective, and so is freedom, really, right?
Right. So let me share with you some of the responses that I got.
Okay.
So from the book, Tina from Pennsylvania expanded, I never have to compromise. There's no what shall we do today? It's always what I want to do. Cam, a mystery writer, described freedom as, if I want to eat a turkey sandwich for breakfast or to vacuum at midnight, nobody asks me why. Emerald summed up freedom as being able to personally develop yourself without having to think about how it impacts others. Living alone is an important experience for everyone, she said. Living alone can be a time of immense personal growth. Right, from our struggles, we gain, don't we? May is that effervescent, smiling waitress that you hope takes care of your table. Mm-hmm. She appreciates the emotional freedom that she has without a partner. If I want to cry for 2 hours and eat Reese's peanut butter cups, I can. She's a creative young woman who fills her free time with activities that celebrate every part of herself. It's no longer her job to figure out a man or help him with his emotions. She doesn't have to deal with his not participating in the communication. And she can focus on her own emotional growth, find herself, get stronger.
Nice.
So those were a few of the answers that I got, just among many.
That's really positive, and I can see how people would call that blissful, but is everything they talked about bliss?
Well, no.
Okay.
No, it's not all good. So to tell the whole story like I had to do when I'm doing custody cases, you got to get both sides, right? So I asked everyone, what are your biggest struggles? And how did you deal with them? And I have some examples of what people said. So Maya misses her husband who since his sudden death. She still talks to him. Her biggest worry now is about safety, and she tries to be more careful where she steps. She keeps her phone charged and near her at all times because no one's there to check on her. Necessity drives opportunities to learn new skills. May is using YouTube to learn how to work on her car. Now she knows what a serpentine belt looks like. She went to an auto supply store by herself and knew exactly what to request. Having been single for 16 years, Malcolm misses socializing with the opposite sex. Now he feels awkward around women. He doesn't have confidence in his ability to interact with the female perspective and sensitivity. He's been seeing a female mental health therapist in hopes that he will get the sympathetic mental and emotional support he needs. Because he isn't part of a couple, he thinks that people look down on him.
Well, under those circumstances, it seems to me that there are societal implications for being single, but what's the hardest part for everybody? So I would imagine maybe loneliness at times.
Yeah, loneliness is definitely part of what you get with freedom and independence. Is when you're completely responsible for for everything in your life, and you're by yourself a lot of the time. You can experience a great degree of loneliness, and it varied a lot with people I talked to, but let's assume that loneliness is a big part of being single, and let's take a look at it from a positive lens. And this gave me the opportunity to use cognitive behavioral techniques. CBT, the idea with CBT is that you take negative words and change them into positive words, and that gives you a more positive experience. So to do that, I asked my interviewees, how do you embrace your solitude? And I got a lot of really lovely answers. I'll read a few here. There's beauty in solitude, said May. I spend it finding my joy. I have a cup of tea and remind myself how great I am. I appreciate the silence. I think about what I can do to be excited about the world. I laugh at my mistakes. Retired hairdresser Elsa notices how the water feels in her bath, part of her mindfulness time. She feels comfort by living with grace. She said, the point is to know who you are and to believe in yourself. And to not let the tide of anticipation of the Christmas holidays overwhelm me, said Juliet. I go bird watching on Christmas Eve. Her hobbies bring her into the present moment. Activities like gardening and yoga sustain my inner peacefulness, she said. Her walking meditations include looking at wildflowers and listening to birds. I enjoy myself. I keep humor inside me, in my brain and my heart. My heart is open and I keep beautiful pictures in my heart. I'm always waiting to giggle. I like to laugh out loud. They just had wonderful things to say. So there's quite a few examples, and those are just a few. Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful. So these are people, though, who are getting out and doing things. Partly, looking inward, but also partly looking outward. How important is it for people to be interactive rather than withdrawn?
Well, social interaction was part of the happiness quotient that the positive psychologists came up with. Yeah. So, yeah.
And do you have a way to help your readers figure out how to do that for themselves?
Well, the whole book is a guide because there are exercises in it. It's meant to be interactive. There's many opportunities for self-discovery, to think about doing new things. For instance, I give my readers some ideas about different personal strengths that other people have identified. And then there's an opportunity for you to decide what your most important strengths are that help you through life. And just when you think about that part of you, then it helps you to learn more about who you are, which is good. And I think my favorite exercise is probably to make a list of 50 things that make you happy.
Whoa. That's a lot of things.
That's a lot of things.
What did you get?
it takes getting started. As you get going with it, you find there are more and more things that make you happy. If you think about your senses, what do you like to eat? What do you think is a beautiful smell? What do you like to look at? What kind of music do you like? What do you listen to? Do you listen to bird song? What is there out in nature? And then who do you interact with that makes you happy? What kind of activities do you do that make you happy?
Yeah.
And you start writing, you find there's more and more and more things. So you might not come up with 50 at once, but you can get there.
No. So I would imagine that's part of addressing the whole mental health issue in the book, because since that's your field, I suppose you tried to make that a focal point for the singles.
Well, yes, that was an easier chapter to write because that was I didn't have to look at 100 questionnaires to get those answers. So for the chapter that I wrote on mental health, I talked about mood disorders like depression and anxiety and just stress in general. And I left the interviewees behind on that one and just wrote from my own experience as a therapist. I'm not a doctor, so I have to say there's really good medications out there, and that's really good, but not my expertise. I am more of an expert in alternative therapies, so that's what I talked about a lot. And so, for instance, for anxiety is a physiological response that is sometimes mysterious to the person that's experiencing it, especially with general anxiety. So it might feel like a tiger's chasing you. Your body's reacting as if a tiger's chasing you, but there's no tiger there. So to work on anxiety, what you need to do is to let your body know there's no tiger there. You've got to convince your body. And what works the best is anything with slow breathing. In fact, just a simple slow breathing exercise is to breathe in, count to 4, pause, breathe out, count to 6, blow it out. Do that over and over again, and it will calm your body's arousal response. That's what they tell you at the emergency department if you go in with a panic attack. Yeah. So it's what works the best. And there's a lot of different techniques that use slow breathing. So yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, all those things. And hypnosis, same thing. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, so I also included some visual imagery to help people think about just calming images. And anxiety a lot of times is focusing on what if situations, problems that might occur in the future. So if you can stay in the moment, stay present, you will feel a lot happier. Just notice there's nothing wrong with what's happening right now. And we say anxiety is about the future and depression is about the past. But so staying mindful, being present, that's a very important piece of good mental health. And then there's other things you can do that help to keep your cortisol levels at a low rate there. Cortisol is part of what happens when your adrenaline's going. And having a high level of cortisol makes you hypervigilant. So that's not what you want. So things that help are endorphins. You know about runner's high.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So endorphins are what happens with the runner's high that make you feel really good. Besides exercise, other things that can increase endorphins are sex, chocolate,
good,
hanging out with your pets, meditation, and acupuncture.
Okay.
And then with depression, that's a different animal. But some of the things are the same. So some of the things that you can take for both would be vitamins like B and C. They're good for stress and immune system. And vitamin D, if you don't get enough light because you live in the northern part of the hemisphere. So for depression, what I really push people to do is to take a walk every day. And why that's so important is it covers many things that help with depression. If you get up and move, that helps. If you stay under the covers in bed, you just get worse. So you need to get up and move. And if you move outside, then you get light. And light, we know, helps with depression. So wintertime, more people have depression from seasonal affective disorder because there's not that much light in the wintertime. So get what you can.
Yeah.
And while you're out, you can commune with nature and be mindful. And you might even find some people to interact with now that we can do that. And
Yeah.
a little more social interaction anyway. So getting out and walking is really, really helpful for depression and stress, and for positive thinking. Of course, that's what I did through the whole book. Positive thinking is another important piece of dealing with depression. And I gave some positive thinking exercises that are kind of fun to try in the book.
Good.
And for stress in general, stress reduction, in general, I could go on for an hour just on that, so I won't, but just think about creating a calm environment for yourself. And instead of stress, think about doing something fun.
There you go. Did your subjects have any stress reduction tools of their own that enhanced your own understanding of that?
What I did was ask them specifically what they did to bring more laughter and fun in their lives, and I asked about social interaction. So let me just read you some of the answers that I got. I'll read a couple. I'm an explorer. I've traveled alone. I just pack up and go, said Cecilia. Singing allows me to voice my emotions. I look at the sunsets and raindrops falling, and I listen to the trees and bird calls. I like to play LP records. I love seeing an incredible piece of art or hearing water slap against the side of a boat. Each month, I try a different activity. I map it out on a calendar for 12 months. Then I immerse myself in it for that month, whether it's a watercolor, photography, writing, books, going to museums. I go 150% until I feel that box close. When it feels confining, it's time for me to move on to something new. You have to be open and available to find joy. Take away the rules and just enjoy. I think that's a great idea. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Louisa works in banking, and she said, being single has allowed me to be empowered to know that I can do it on my own. She isn't good at sitting still, so she goes to the gym or the museum or walks at the waterfront or journals on her computer. She said, fun finds me. I just choose to go that direction. I go dancing as part of my workout, sometimes by myself. I love to bring out the inner child. It's my joy. The magic begins outside the circle of my comfort, in risk-taking. And Theodore, a retired television camera operator, said, make everything an event so you have fun. Go for it. Drive with the top down.
Nice. So, hearing over and over that these people are seeking physical activity and healthy health improving exercise to enhance their happiness, their bliss.
Right. It all comes together, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's cool. How did So you faced some of the same obstacles that we've all faced when it came to writing this book. If you couldn't go out and meet people for the past year to interview them, how did COVID affect the book overall?
Ah, so well, COVID came at a time when I was editing. The book was written,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and I was working on a chapter. I was editing the chapter on social interaction, how important it is to have social interaction, all these wonderful ideas about how to increase social interaction. And there is nothing about it that felt very relevant when you're being told to stay inside. So I had to add some new things. I did include some of the things that people were doing, which was, for instance, what we're doing today, virtual groups. My sister's in a knitting group. I have a dance class I do virtually. Some people have book clubs they do virtually. Lots of meetings, lots of classes. And then some people found a partner to be COVID buddies with. So one person who lives by themselves might know someone else who lives by themselves and agree that they'll just be COVID buddies, and then they can go to each other's homes for dinner and watch TV together, or play cards or board games. And that is another thing that people did. Some people formed bubble groups, small groups that played cards together. Lots of social media. But what it did for me was, in writing the book, because I had interviewed 100 people, and it helped me to remember, as I went through all 100 questionnaires, all these people who had helped me. And it also just felt like I could feel them. I could feel the 100 people who all wanted to be part of this book.
Mm-hmm.
I could hear their voices, and that was really nice.
Yeah.
I should say a little bit more about being healthy too, because if you can't do any of this if you don't stay healthy. And we talk about the 3 pillars of health: exercise, eating healthy, and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of books out there about eating healthy and exercise. What I added that might be a little bit different for exercise is that it's nice to have a variety of different things that you do, so it doesn't get boring. So there's a long list of different things you might think of that look like play but are exercise. You might want to add something new. And there are many books on how to eat healthy. That's nothing new, but I did give you the snacks that I came up with for the college students that I had in counseling. They were looking for ways that not to have that freshman 15 weight gain, and they didn't have facilities for cooking always, and they needed things that were fast. So I came up with a really nice list of healthy snacks. I included that. And I also talk about stress eating. One of the things about COVID is that one of the things you do when you're stressed is you eat. And that guilty, that I'm not alone in that one at all. So if you're a stress eater, one thing you can do is start making a list of things that would make you feel good that don't involve food. For instance, listening to music or call a friend. And then if you're in a situation where you're heading for the refrigerator, but you're not really hungry, you might have an opportunity to look at your list and think about doing something different. So that's in there. And then the 3rd pillar of health is the most mysterious: sleep. Because all of us every night go into a coma. We're unconscious.
Yeah.
And in fact, for a part of sleep, your body's paralyzed. You can't move. If you ever wake up during that, it's quite frightening. In fact, that's a sleep disorder. And so I was really interested in sleep. I used some of my continuing ed requirement time to learn more about it. And there's a lot of information that I've I'm giving there about things that you can do to help you get a good night's sleep, and why it's so important. Because sleep is a time when your body is regenerating and you're making some of the hormones that are important for health. Your immune system is linked to the amount of sleep you get, as well as the exercise and healthy eating. One of the things that happens while you're sleeping is the cerebral spinal fluid that surrounds your brain. It flows down through your brain and washes out the detritus from a whole day of hard work of thinking. So you wake up refreshed because your brain actually got cleaned. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, cleaned and healed.
Right,
How do you
right.
put it back together if you get bonked in the head?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. So your what do you call it? Your quintessential single person is going to be somebody who sleeps, exercises, eats well, visualizes good things. What would you call that person? I mean, how would you refer to somebody who's really got it nailed down and is blissfully single?
It's somebody who's taking care of themselves, somebody who's trying to doing the best that you can. And it's you're never done. There's always more. And I do give an opportunity for you to think about the things that you think you're doing well, and to think about what you might want to improve on. And there's a whole field called change theory that teaches you how to change successfully. It starts with small goals, planning things out and choosing small goals that you can be successful at, and then to add on to your successes with maybe a new goal. And so you're not trying too much at once, not expecting too much from yourself. So there's always room for more, and there's always going to be a new goal that you create for yourself.
Yeah.
But as long as you're reaching for the stars, you're on your way.
Bravo. Yeah. And so there you have it. And the book is a good tool for helping everybody find that way.
Yes.
That's a brilliant thing that you've got here, Peggy. I'm really
Thank you.
happy for you.
I say, embrace the beautiful spirit that is yours, love the person you are, and feel the bliss.
There you are. Yeah. Okay. Now everybody can get the book through, well, right here.
Right here, right now. Thank you,
Yeah.
Village Books.
Okay. We'll turn it back over to Charlie and let
right.
him talk about the nuts and bolts of that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, there's a couple question and a comment actually. The question from Jamie is, what about physical intimacy? I'm guessing they mean like how to, like, as a single person, what happens when you want that? How do people continue to be happy without that?
That's one of the things that a lot of people talked about missing. Touch is vital. Touch is vital to survival, in fact. And some people were dating. I didn't talk to anyone who was in a committed relationship because I don't consider that single. You've got somebody there to share your life with. But so some people were dating. Some people have friends with benefits. One of my interviewees talked about the body pillow. That was nice. She uses a body pillow to cuddle with. Get all the hugs you can. Pet your cat, pet your dog, pet somebody else's dog, but ask first because you never know. Mm-hmm. When I was counseling wives of military men who were deployed, the new technology allows for like this kind of communication, but there was something that they were just missing, and we figured out that it was touch. That's something you can't get this way. And I suggested that they book a massage, and I heard good results. So just having someone touch you Massage therapists are wonderful people.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. And there's also a comment from Carolyn. Although I am married, I have a COVID buddy for walking. My husband has trouble walking 3 miles. My buddy and I walk 2 times a week when we can. We were constantly quizzing each other about who else we were in contact with. So it sounds like Carolyn found a good way to stay healthy and safe,
Yeah,
keeping
she
all of us
did.
safe. Yeah.
Hmm. And a lot of people have did that, to find ways that you can still be healthy, but to be respectful of each other's immune system health, well-being. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's all the questions for this time, it looks like. So thank you so much to everyone, to our audience, for joining us today. Thank you, Peggy, for sharing with us, and thank you, Seán, for joining us today as well. A pleasure to listen to your discussion. And yes, you can purchase Blissfully Single and Peggy's other books, as well as Seán's book, through the link I'm about to post. Yes, that should be, yeah, that's the right one. And then also the second link is the link to the Village Books YouTube channel, where you can view this event again or share it with friends once it's uploaded. And you can also view any of our past events on there as well, any of the past virtual events. So COVID and onward.
Great.
Oh, did you have, Seán and Peggy, do you guys have any last words?
If you're interested in knowing any more about the books or what I'm doing, I have a website, www.peggysullivanbooks.com, and I am hoping to be able to speak at groups in the future. And so if you have a group that you think would benefit from hearing about how they can be more blissful, be happy to talk with you. You can find contact information on my website.
Great. Okay.
All right. Well, if that's everything, I wish you all a great night, great evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this.
And good
Thank
luck
you,
in the
guys.
finals.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone that joined us today.
Yes, thank you to our audience. Have a lovely afternoon.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.